2.5 weeks from today, we'll have an NCAA regional, and if these seeds and these rankings hold, we'll be right back here at the Huntsman Center with Utah and UCLA paired for a chance to go to nationals. We're so glad you're with us with Olympian Sam Pesek. I'm Connor Onion. Liv Karras, our All-American, is with us shortly. This is your favorite meet of the year for good reason.
Yeah, I competed in this dual meet, and now I'm commentating, and I have those same butterflies. Both of these teams are incredible, and iron sharpens iron. They push each other and elevate each other when they compete against each other. So they're both historically dominant. Both these head coaches really want to prove that they're going to continue that legacy.
And that push is toward a potential national championship. Both feel that they can do it this year. These are your keys to the meet.
Yeah, both these teams are looking for more sticks on vault specifically. UCLA also wants to have an aggressive approach across all 4 events, while Utah specifically wants to have confident beam routines. That's what's going to help these two teams be successful in this meet tonight.
Well, it helps to have an Olympian, multiple-time Olympian, Jordan Childs, in the all-around. She went for a 10 out of 10 on 4 the last time that we saw her on Fox.
Yeah, she is so much fun to watch, and she has such a long resume, but she doesn't have an NCAA championship team title yet. So she's hoping to help her team to one of those this season.
Well, in Utah, they're hoping for the same. They've finished in 3rd place at Nationals 4 years in a row with Grace McCallum leading them. This could be the year.
Yeah, well, this senior class, Grace McCallum, sticking her vault landing in warm-ups. She's just having her best year yet, and she's hoping to lead her team to an NCAA championship title this year.
So McCallum part of that vault lineup. And Sam, the first 2 rotations of this meet are going to be so fascinating with the landings on vault both ways.
Yeah, the interesting thing about these vault landings is that you can't hyper-fixate on those landings, because oftentimes it can cause more problems than it can help you stick the landing. So their vault coach, Mike Hunger, has specifically worked with their technique a lot this year and focusing on that aggressive approach versus the landing.
And for UCLA, starting out on bars, same thing can be said. Janelle McDonald talked about their slow start on bars last week and turned it into a strong finish with Jordan Childs on the back end. Same goes tonight after their meet against Stanford.
Yeah, they worked really hard on this event, and head coach Janelle McDonald said it really could be an asset event for us, but they haven't put all 6 routines together. That's an area of focus for them tonight.
Janelle McDonald in her 3rd year. National championship aspirations. Carly Dockendorf the same. The first-year head coach to win a regular season championship in the Big 12, and also in her first year took them to the national finals, finishing 3rd. Here's how the dual meet works. The road team starts on bars, the home team starts on vault, then they flip, and the back end of this meet is going to be excellent because both teams are outstanding on the beam and the floor week after week.
But I think this first and second rotation might dictate the outcome of this meet. Utah starting on vault, crucial for them.
Reigning first-team All-American on vault, Ella Zerbis, in front of a capacity crowd, gets us started on the vault for Utah.
Doing a Yurchenko 1.5. She takes that 1 step forward, but hangs on to the planted foot. So it should just be that 1/10 for the step.
And some room to operate with that 10-0 start value on the Yurchenko 1.5. As Zerbis gets it started on vault for the Red Rocks. This is a big routine to open it up for UCLA. Shea Campbell, money on the other 3 events. She doesn't have a weakness, but the 8-time All-American really wants a high score on bars as we get toward postseason.
Yeah, and she's just one of those athletes that not only is experienced, but she's just steady. Nice transition elements, holding that handstand. Judges are looking for a vertical handstand. Double front, hop on the landing. Not quite as sharp and crisp as I've seen her do in past meets, but it's still a hit routine for UCLA.
And that double front blind landing, that's where the deductions have come from for Shea Campbell the last couple of weeks after a 9.75 against Stanford.
Yeah, she just hung on to the bar a little bit too long on the dismount, mistimed the landing a bit.
With Grace McCallum after Ella Zerbis opened up for Utah with a 9.85. We get to see the 2020 Olympian for Team USA for the first time in this meet.
Yeah, she's doing a Yurchenko 1.5, which is a change from the previous years. Been feeling a lot more confident on this vault. Under-rotated it. Looked like she was trying to go for that stuck landing. She felt really confident with Mike Hunger coaching her technique on this event. He's their vault coach, and he actually coached her since he was 13 years old.
We welcome some of our audience across the country to Salt Lake City, Utah. It's number 4 UCLA and number 5 Utah in rotation 1. This is the second routine on the bars for UCLA. Olympian Sam Peshek, I'm Connor Onion. Olivia Karras, the All-American, is with us reporting. Mika Webster Longin with a season high of 9.925 against Michigan.
What's really good about Mika on bars is her precision in the pirouettes and those handstands right here. Clear hip into a full twisting double back, hop on the landing. So both teams have yet to stick a landing, which is an area of focus for both of them.
Well, let's hear from Olivia Karras for the first time.
Avery Neff is back in the all-around major for the Utes in their quest for the postseason, and having her back after 2 sprained ankles in mid-January is only going to up their scoring potential, and this is a big moment for her on vault.
Olivia, her first competitive vault in 2 months last week at Washington, and back-to-back weeks in the all-around back home on vault for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, I was chatting with their head coach, Carly Dockendorf, during warm-up, and Avery Neff nailed a vault, and Carly just started laughing and said she's definitely not human. Look at this, Yurchenko 1.5. Wow. Judges are looking for straight arms on the table. She opens up at the perfect time to settle in, absorb the mat for a perfect stuck landing. This is going to be a huge score. Megan Marsden, former head coach of Utah, she loved it. She wants a 10.
And the current head coach of the Red Rocks, Carly Dockendorf, is right. She is not human.
She's money, and she's just a freshman. That's what's so unbelievable.
Neff hurt both of her ankles on her floor routine in mid-January. Looked like her season might be over, but she slowly worked back into the all-around and can't wait to see that score. Here's Emma Malabuyo.
Good handstand before her release combination coming right up. Sometimes when athletes are a little nervous on bars, they rush their routine. I'm noticing that from the first couple bar routines. But Emma hangs on a little slide with the foot. It'll be interesting to see what the judges do with that.
She stuck that dismount last week against Stanford, brought to tears on her senior day.
That's a toe shoot to handstand directly into a full in 2 twists, 2 flips, 1 twist. Nicely done.
Waiting for Malabuyo's score. Neff did go 9.95, which is a career high. Ashley Glenn also has that potential. That was the first in the 9.9 range for Utah after a couple of 9.85s to get it started. Now a very powerful vaulter, Ashlyn Glenn for Utah.
She's going to be doing another Yurchenko 1.5. It's a round off onto the board, back handspring onto the table, 1.5 twist. So powerful. Wanted to see her land with a little bit more bent knees to absorb the landing. Watch her leg position. She just had so much adrenaline. She landed a little straight knees. You want to bend those knees. It's not a deduction. And it helps make the vault a little bit safer on the landing.
Sam, that's been the story of Glynn's last couple of weeks. So powerful, as you mentioned, trying to corral that power, stay centered, and hit a landing.
Yeah, it's important for both of these teams on these two events.
The freshman, Macy McGowan, who always gets advice from Jordan Childs right before this bar routine. She tends to over-fixate on being perfect. Jordan Childs has helped her get out of that mindset.
Yeah, talk about superstar freshman. I would definitely put Macy in that category. She's a really good ability to know exactly where she is in the air and put her handstands in the correct spot, aggressive throughout this routine, opens double layout, controlled landing. Janelle McDonald right there, first one to give her that high five. She can do this lights out routine, but sometimes gets a little bit nervous in competition. But Janelle's fired up.
It's definitely a heightened version of Janelle McDonald than when you just talk to her face to face.
Yeah.
You asked a great question. How many calories do you think you burn on the bars?
It's her own personal workout, and I think this is her own personal heaven too over there on bars.
The head coach for UCLA, also the bars coach. McKenna Smith, 7th in the country on the vault. She is the only one in this lineup that does not do a Yurchenko 1.5.
Yeah, she's going to be doing a round off on the board, half on to the table, front pike off. She's usually really good at this landing. Just like that. She is so consistent on that landing. These athletes do so many repetitions in the gym, but it's really tough to simulate an environment that's as energetic as this one to control the adrenaline and settle into the landing.
Vilyanchik, named after the Russian gymnast in the 80s. McKenna Smith with the skill named after her. Frida Esparza, who is musician and bar specialist. She performed the anthem on Valentine's Day back at Pauley Pavilion on the guitar, and then UCLA was powered to a season-high score. Coincidence? You make the call.
I don't know. It's so impressive to me that she has musical talent in addition to being a strong athlete. Couldn't be me, Connor, that's for sure.
I don't know, we might have to get you out to a karaoke bar or something. Test the vocals. Well, here's Esparza. Lower scores the past few weeks, but dazzling when everything hits.
Yeah, the key for her to hit a nice bar routine is being aggressive. That full twisting pack salto, that's called a hardwage. Really difficult bar routine. Shy on that last handstand too, though. But good comeback on that double layout dismount.
That's where the deductions had come the last few weeks. Sticking the dismount for Esparza. Here's that last handstand.
Yeah, a little shy. It'll be interesting to see what the judges do. She gets a 10-degree window, and that could have been in that window, but really you don't want to leave the door open for question when it comes to these judges.
That routine followed up Macy McGowan's 9.9, a new career high for the freshman. Now Zoe Johnson, a little bit of a secret weapon for Utah in the anchor spot tonight. No competitive vaults in her career until right now.
Yeah, Connor, but I watched her warm up, and she is so aggressive. She has a huge pop off the table. So I want you to watch her air time coming off of this table. So high and dynamic, that step forward, but that's actually what Coach Mike Hunger instructs them to do. Big dynamic vaults with a controlled step forward.
Well, Mike Hunger coming from Twin City Twisters, the club in Minneapolis, and has really instilled the confidence to go for it more for these Utah vaulters and put some big skills out there. Zoe Johnson in her exhibitions was performing a full Yurchenko, and in competition, now that she's in the lineup, massive 1.5.
Yeah, and that really elevates Utah's lineup to have another strong Yurchenko 1.5 in their lineup. That event in particular is all about risk versus reward.
A couple of good bar routines from McGowan and Esparza. 9.9 for McGowan, 9.95 for Esparza. Now Jordan Childs, the owner of a perfect 10 at Maryland in January.
She does her best when she's loose, when she's having fun. And she's so good. She has a natural ability to swing. Really good timing on all of her release moves. Looking for vertical handstand, locks it in. Just the dismount. She's had trouble on this in the past. Really good job. Just needed a little bit more vertical chest on the landing, and that would have been perfectly stuck. That's called a half pirouette twist. Judges, again, are looking for a vertical handstand, even on that twisting pirouette. Let's go double layout. Let's go smidge early. See her chest forward, had to take the slightest hop forward, but really solid routine.
And that's a dismount that Jordan Childs actually changed in mid-February. She was a full twisting double tuck before, and we're off and running in this top 5 matchup. Utah's final score in on vault, a season high, 49-425. We'll give you that bar score for UCLA right after this. UCLA to the vault, Utah to the bars. Next. So a couple 9-9s in the bunch for Utah in that first rotation, including Avery Neff, who is back in the all-around after a couple of weeks away. And Neff went 9.95, McKenna Smith with a 9.925.
Well, Utah's been talking about how much Avery Neff has elevated their lineups being back in the all-around, and coming out today, this is exactly what they know that she can do. Landings has been an area of focus, and she just locks it in like a pro. So competitive. McKenna Smith is usually so consistent with this landing, and she shows up for this important night.
Well, the vault high for Utah was 4.9375. They go 4.9425, so a season high. UCLA finished just shy, 49.425 for UCLA. So the same exact score both ways as both teams chase a 198 tonight. So we welcome you back in with Sam Pesek, the Olympian, Connor Onion, Olivia Karras with us tonight too. We think it's there. Utah's already gone 198. UCLA very capable. Do you think tonight's the night?
Yeah, I mean, both of these teams have high scoring potential on beam and floor. So I think the most important thing is for UCLA to hit a strong vault rotation here and for Utah to show up on bars in order to keep pace for that 198.
Well, that was the key for Utah to start sticking some more landings on vault. They absolutely did that and more.
Yeah, they looked so strong, so confident. That's an area of focus, is the power off the table. And it really showed up in all of their vaults, even the ones that weren't stuck tonight.
So rotation 2 is coming up. We've seen UCLA on the bars, so that means Jordan Childs, the 2023 bars national champion. It's a rematch of the finals. Grace McCallum on the bars coming up next. She was the runner-up in 2023 to Childs. Here we go. Next to rotation 2 in Salt Lake. Has made history in the regular season in conference. Big Ten regular season champions for UCLA in their first year in the conference, and after several Pac-12 championships in a row, 4 in a row on their way out. Utah won 1 in the Big 12. UCLA 7 national titles. Utah has 10 national titles. That first one was an AIAW national title, so the people in Georgia that might yell at us, it's 9 NCAA titles for Utah, but 10 overall. And that graphic tells you a lot about the history and the rivalry coming back together. What's at stake tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to both teams during warm-up, and this meet in particular excites them because it's just something that they all look forward to, elevating each other throughout the board, across the history of these teams. I mean, it's a legendary meet.
And the answer is D.
And the Utah fans were kind when you came in as a visitor, right?
I always loved coming to the Huntsman Center because the crowd got so rowdy, and even though they weren't in the colors that I was wearing, they still were super loud, and I loved competing in an environment like that.
Okay, so UCLA on vault after a 4.925 on their first rotation on bars. Riley Jenkins into the leadoff spot tonight for Emily Lee, who's only doing one event. That's beam. So Utah on bars, we told you going to break there. Grace McCallum out of the anchor spot, somebody to watch, but so is Avery Neff. One thing we're curious about tonight, will she do her typical double layout dismount we've seen, or will she go to the big tricks? She's been begging for Jimmy Pratt, her bars coach, to let her do it.
I mean, after a stuck Yurchenko 1.5, I mean, she's on fire. You got to let her throw the difficulty. But I guess I'm not her coach, so we'll see.
I don't know. I have a feeling tonight's the night.
I agree with you.
A 9.95 for Neff as Utah went with a season high 4.9425. There's Riley Jenkins, the freshman. Season high 9.85. The last time the Bruins were on Fox, February 1st against Michigan State.
She'll be doing a Yurchenko 1.5. We've seen this vault consistently throughout this competition. Under rotates that. You can see her chest was really far back when she landed on her heels, but good job recovering, making it just a couple hops versus a fall.
Not an easy spot for Jenkins to be in. Just the second time in her career she's in the leadoff and doing it for the first time on the road. And now McKenna Smith, one of the most consistent dismount stickers on this Utah team on the bars.
Good dynamic handstand. That's an area of focus for this Utah team on bars. McKenna's been so consistent on the landing on vault, but she's also been really consistent here as well. Unique dismount. Great save to keep those feet planted. That's going to bode well for Utah in the scores.
The fans were right with her, riding that wave of trying to hold on to that dismount.
Yeah, she had her chest pretty far forward, so I'm impressed that she was able to hang on to that stick position, but maybe the crowd helped her out. Good adjustment on top of the bar. Great job squeezing all of her core muscles to keep those feet planted.
Riley Jenkins for UCLA, a 9.75 to lead off in place of Emily Lee tonight, who's getting a little extra rest before the Big Ten championships next week. And that score came in from McKenna Smith, 9.95.
Brooklyn Moores looked like she was adjusting mid-air, but was able to put it to her feet and stick the landing. She does a front pike with a half twist. Great work on the landing there. She spots the table right as she comes around. UCLA is hoping that she's going to start some contagious sticks. Sometimes that happens in the sport of gymnastics.
Well, UCLA last week, they started slow and then finished strong with a couple of 9.9s and a 9.95. After a 9.75 from Jenkins. Gets you that score on Moores when it comes in.
Yeah, as a reminder, 6 scores, only 5 scores count. So you can drop one of those scores. UCLA is certainly going to hope to drop Riley Jenkins 9.75.
Terrific start for Utah on the bars with a 9.95 from Smith. Here's Glenn.
Yeah, you can't ask for a stronger start for Utah on bars. Able to handstand back down to that low bar. I love the way that I'm seeing the bar move. That really indicates how aggressive she's swinging. Double tuck, step on the dismount. But that's really the biggest major deduction I saw in that routine. Really nicely done on the bar.
Clean, crisp, confident bar worker, Ashley Glenn.
Yeah, look at her moving that bar. That's a really nice indicator that she's swinging well.
Glenn out of the 2 spot after Smith scored a 9.95. Now Mika Webster Longin follows up Brooklyn Moores the 9.875. UCLA hoping to drop that 9.75 out of the leadoff spot.
UCLA has a lot more freshmen in the vault and bars lineup, so they haven't seen as much consistency. Yurchenko 1.5. Anticipated the landing too soon, and that's where you saw the problems came on the landing.
Similar story last week against Stanford in the middle of the UCLA lineup.
Yeah, look, it's really strong off the table. She waits, but opens up too early, and that's why she had to take a couple steps backwards. Not really the vaults that UCLA is hoping to see here.
For Utah, they're going for a second 198 as a team tonight. Season high on vault. They've started on bars 9.95 and 9.85. Now Avery Neff, it's time to see if we see the big tricks on the dismount. She's been a double layout. Will we see the full twisting double layout dismount?
Of course, she was the athlete that was out because of ankle sprains, so she's been itching to get back in the competition, and you can just see it in her eyes, how fresh she is. Sharp to the handstand, quick off the bar. She adds the difficult double layout, full out to a stuck landing. She is on fire.
The big tricks are back for Avery Neff.
And she makes it look so easy.
For weeks, she's been trying to convince Jimmy Pratt to go back to that with the sore ankles. Tonight's the night.
Yeah, I asked the coaches what makes her special, and they said, well, not only is she talented, but she's as competitive as they come. And she's just an easy kid to work with, but I'm just so impressed with Avery Neff being only a freshman here. She's gonna be fun to watch for the next few years.
Came in with a lot of anticipation as the best recruit in the country. Macy McGowan high in those rankings as well in that same class. A freshman for UCLA on vault, hoping that they'll have a magical back end after some 9.7s and 9.8s to start.
There's pressure on this freshman, Macy McGowan, for a clean landing. Really clean in the air, but quite a big step hop forward. That's really what the judges are going to be looking for and deducting for UCLA, but watch her legs in the air. This is as clean of a 1.5 as you can get. Legs perfectly glued together, and she opens her arms at the correct time, but just had a little bit too much power, had to take that hop forward.
And that was UCLA head coach Janelle McDonald's self-critique of UCLA is we are excellent in the air, but question for postseason, can we land better?
Yeah.
Well, Neff went 9.925 on bars after a 9.95 on vault. Whoa.
Yeah, and the next three in this lineup can put up huge scores. So Utah's on their way to a season best bar score.
Fun irony to this routine. There are a couple of skills in here that are named after UCLA Bruins for Emily Morgan.
There are. Good handstand position. Straight up to the high bar. That's called a bahardwaj. Full twisting pack salto. Same skill that Frida Esparza does for UCLA. Not too many athletes in the NCAA do those skills. A little difficult, but sticks the landing. Great work for the senior. A toe handstand directly into this dismount, spotting the ground. You see her feet are a little apart, so curious to see if the judges will be looking at that.
She'll try to keep the hit routine streak going with Neff and Smith. 9.925 and 9.95. Shea Campbell, if history holds, it's a good bet. You'll see a 9.9 here. UCLA could really use it after how this rotation started.
Yeah, she'll be doing a Yurchenko layout full Just a full, but she is so consistent with that landing. There's very few athletes in the NCAA that have equally as good of a Yurchenko full as Shea Campbell. She gets a good amount of block off the table. Just a very small slide on that landing. But UCLA is really gonna lean on that score because they need to increase those possibly scoring above a 9-9.
It was a 9-9 for Campbell. She kick-started them late in the rotation last week on vault, hoping that Childs can follow that up with a 9-9 as well. Here's Ella Zerbis, one of her best last week, a 9-9 on bars.
Yeah, look at her toe point. It is so beautiful to watch. Really high release move above the bar. Judges are really looking for how high you get on those release moves, and if you're at a good distance away from the bar when you catch. Finishing tuck full in. Oh, thought she could have hung on to that dismount.
It's tremendous height on that Jaeger. The end, we'll see what it comes in as. But Olivia Karras has more on Jordan Childs before her vault.
Connor, I was watching Jordan warm up vault, and it looked like she was doing a different vault today. Instead of doing the half on front tuck half that she's been competing all season, she will be doing a Yurchenko double twist, which is the vault that she competed in the Olympics. So bringing it back to a different vault for this time around, just trying to see how the vault scores in a different environment.
Yeah, Liv, thanks for that update. I'm really shocked, actually, because just last meet, she scored a 9.95 with the previous vault. Usually clean in the air, but just under rotates that on the landing. That's the most difficult vault that we'll see in the NCAA. Only a couple of athletes do that. Twists early off the table, almost gets her chest far enough. When she was competing that consistently, it was a strong vault for UCLA on the landing.
I was standing down there during warm-ups with Liv, and we kind of looked at each other like, was that a new vault? We're going to see a new vault tonight.
Yeah, I got to figure out why.
So Grace McCallum, again, a rematch with the 2023 National Finals where Jordan Childs won it. McCallum finished second. This is the #1 bar worker in the country in 2025.
She's gotten 110 this year, although head coach Carly Dockendorf said she feels like she's done a couple of perfect 10-0 routines this year. I don't see any deduction so far. This is perfectly placed in the vertical position. If she can stick the landing, oh no! Man, that was such a good routine. I mean, she is still going to score high, but it won't be a perfect 10 this time around.
Well, the fans wanted it so badly their last time at home against Denver. Not quite as adamant this time.
Yeah, on the bar, it was perfect. And just this dismount, you could see she stood up a little soon, had to take the hop backwards. You know she wanted that landing.
You could see it on her face.
Yeah.
So impressive the last time we saw Grace McCallum on this floor. 9.975s in 3 events. We'll get you that score and the full rotation 2 scores when we come back. Halfway home, #4 versus #5 in Salt Lake in the last weekend of the regular season. Through 2 rotations in Salt Lake City, Shea Campbell, the only 9.9 of the bunch for UCLA, so they'll want much higher than that when they go to postseason.
Yeah, coming into this competition, head coach Janelle McDonald said last weekend they opened the door on vault landings, and unfortunately they did the same thing here tonight. Really good dynamic vaults in the air, but just couldn't land as controlled as they would like, which showed up in the competition and the scores.
Well, for Utah, we talked about the possibility of a 198 tonight. Their .05 off of the pace. They've given up a point and a half a tenth. So we could see the third 198 of the weekend. We saw LSU and Oklahoma already do it last night in college gymnastics. So the two strengths of Utah coming up. That's why plenty of belief that beam and floor could get them there.
Yeah, you see Utah's scores on the right really strong, and actually their two highest scoring events are yet to come. Same with UCLA. Expect some big numbers on beam and floor, but 49.175 is unfortunately not what they were hoping to do on their previous event.
Well, Olivia Karras is with UCLA head coach Janelle McDonald.
Coach, a new vault from Jordan in the middle of season. Talk to me about the strategy behind that.
Yeah, you know, she's been working really hard in the gym to get it back consistent, and this was the first time we were able to feel like she's ready to go with competition on it. And so, you know, we feel like this vault, when she does it really well and is able to stick it, she doesn't have any built-in deductions, and so we want to try going down this path. We knew it was like getting back out here, competing it for the first time. We're kind of taking a chance here to get her feet wet again on it, but, you know, I feel like today was a really good step, getting her out here, warming it up quick and efficient, and being able to compete it.
2 more rotations. What does the team have to do to close this out?
Yeah, you know, we're heading into 2 of our best events, so we feel really good about where we're at. We got to make sure that we're fighting for every detail, every landing, and just really going out there and doing what we can do.
Thanks for the time.
Well, as Janelle McDonald said, 2 of the best events that UCLA has coming up, including floor next. The number 2 team in the country on the floor behind Oklahoma. UCLA putting on a show when you come back. Olivia Karras with you in Salt Lake, where Avery Neff is on a heater right now.
Yeah, she started off so strong. Yurchenko 1.5. She had sticky feet, wasn't even thinking about taking a step. She brought that energy to this bar routine here, scoring a huge 9.925. That's called a Ginger release move to an immediate overshoot combination. And let me remind you, this athlete is just a freshman. She's competing like she's such a veteran, especially with difficult skills like that. Strong execution, big difficulty, and she's hoping to show up in a similar way on the next event on beam.
She'll be 5th in the beam lineup after a career high on vault, a season high on bars, which are both, I guess you can just both call them career highs. She's a freshman. But she's coming up at the number 5 spot. And then former UCLA Bruin Anna Poterio will round it out, back in the lineup for the first time in a month for Poterio.
Yeah, she is such a strong beam worker. So all of these athletes in their beam lineup, I would consider beamers. So expect some big numbers from them.
And for UCLA, there is one change from the last couple of weeks in their floor lineup. Usually it's Emily Lee, getting her some extra rest for postseason. So Mika Webster-Longen will lead it off for the Bruins.
They've scored a 49.8 on floor so far this year. This is certainly their highest scoring event. They're currently ranked 2nd on floor due to their strong performances and high tumbling passes. They're going to need a big number if they're going to want to contend with Utah in this meet.
The 3.5 tenths is a lot at the midway point to be behind, but we learned it firsthand in the Michigan State meet in February. They were down 7 tenths before going on floor, came back in the final rotation, and UCLA won it.
They usually get some momentum here on floor, but they're not at home, Connor. They're away. Even though they've been competing strong away, this is actually a really good test for the postseason. Can they eliminate the distractions and focus on their competition and how they compete at their best?
As of about 2 hours before the meet started, there were only 100 tickets left in a hostile road environment that UCLA walks into. We'll see how they respond. Emily Morgan, Carly Dockendorf called the leadoff of your dreams. Put back in this spot a couple of weeks ago after the Arizona State meet in mid-February.
It's always hard for teams when they try to replace a senior that is so solid in this leadoff spot. Both UCLA and Utah will be dealing with that next year. the reason this position is so important is it really sets the tone for the team on beam. A strong hit routine is contagious for the rest of the lineup. Strong series, little adjustment at the finish. And as a reminder, this is their senior meet. Emily is a senior, and I always was really nervous on my senior meet. It's the last time you're competing in front of your home crowd. It's a little bit emotional when you think about it. I actually split the beam on my senior night, so she's doing much better than I did.
There's some trauma in your experience.
Yeah. All is to say is it's really nerve-wracking to compete your last time in this really special arena. Good dismount, hangs on to the stick. A routine she'll remember for a long time, and certainly one to be proud of. Good rhythm throughout this routine. Had to swing her arms to save the stick, but she hangs on to it.
Fitting that on senior night, the first hug she got was from Jaden Rucker, senior that can't be out with her there tonight, out for the season with an Achilles injury. Now the freshman, Mika Webster-Longen, in for Emily Lee in the leadoff spot. 3 events instead of 2 today for Webster-Longen.
Double full. I really like how she held her feet down when she finished. Their choreography is something that UCLA has always prided themselves on. BJ Doss in the corner there is the choreographer for their team, and they put so much emphasis and practice on every single movement, what their facial expressions will be looking like, every detail from start to finish. Not as much competitive experience for the freshman, so good to see her out there tonight.
Well, not in the lineup the past couple of meets, but back in there tonight leading it off.
Yeah, it's tough to earn a lineup spot for this team on floor. This is a highlight though for me. Round off double full, keeps her feet planted. She wanted to bring the back foot up, but did a nice job being patient there.
Back over to beam for Utah, Cammie Winger follows the 9.875 for Emily Morgan. Through these first 3 rotations, nothing lower than a 9.8 has counted for Utah.
Cammie started strong this year with a 9.95 on this event, but she started off doing all around, then transitioned to just a couple events, and they noticed it really affected her on this event. Nothing affected that back handspring layout. That was beautifully done. But she was overthinking this event because she wasn't doing all 4, so they had to go back to the drawing board and figure out a different strategy on how to occupy her mind so that she wasn't overthinking the entire meet until she got to this routine. I like how she finished on toe after that full turn. That might might look easy, but in competition, when you're nervous, that's usually the skill that gymnasts can wobble on. Finishing gainer full off the side. Nicely done. That's going to be a big score for Utah. Looks like she had no problems.
That first series really set the tone.
Yeah, look at this. Back handspring, layout, layout. That's the most difficult triple series you'll see in the NCAA.
And the gainer off the side.
Back handspring into that gainer. Knows exactly where she is, plants it down. Jaden Rucker.
Another big hug for Rucker. You know how badly she wants to compete tonight,
man.
Especially.
But you can tell that she is still the heartbeat of the team and doing everything she can to support her Utah.
Well, Rucker wants to coach eventually, so she's turned into student assistant essentially. That score came in. Okay, mine froze. What did you see it? Where'd it come in?
995.
Ooh. Knew it was big from the crowd reaction. This is Macy McGowan, who owns a 995 on floor.
Opens with a really big tuck full in. Yellow flag went up. That means out of bounds, 1/10 deduction for going over the line. Combination pass. Comes back strong after that out of bounds on the first pass. She's normally really consistent on this landing. Tuck full in, grabs at the very last second. And you see, no question, that was over the line.
Automatic 10th deduction going out of bounds on floor. For Macy McGowan out of the 2 spot for UCLA. Well, the winger, 995, is the 3rd of the night for Utah. Smith on bars, Neff on vault. And here is McKenna Smith after saluting Carly Dockendorf. Their pre-beam routine.
Difficult back handspring mount. Utah's been very consistent on beam this year. But head coach Carly Dockendorf said that sometimes they lose focus in the middle of the routine. So that's really an area of focus for this team, is to stay mentally tough from start to finish. Gearing up for her series. Back handspring layout, that step back, but she does not react, so veteran move for her to have one little mistake, but did not turn it into multiple. Looks like she settled in. Now at the end of her routine, finishing gainer off the back. Not the strongest, sharpest routine that I've seen from her, but it's going to continue that momentum for Utah since it was still a strong routine.
But as you said, early in that routine, one mistake didn't turn into two.
Yeah, that's important going into postseason because mistakes are going to happen. It's important that these athletes don't react and they just respond.
Emma Malabuyo had a 9-9 last week. This routine inspired by Bruno Mars, her music.
This routine is so fun.
It is.
Opening double pike. To talk to Emma during warm-up, and she just looked at me and said, we're gonna attack our gymnastics today. And you can tell by the way she's going for these skills that she's bringing that aggressive tone to her routine.
Nailed this pass the last couple of weeks.
UCLA needed a strong routine. Emma was able to get the job done here on floor. It looked like she had a little bit of fun while she did it too.
Great job by our crew too, getting the point right into the camera. Going right into your living room at the end of that routine.
They're showmen, let me tell you. They knew exactly where the cameras were.
Final few words from Carly Dockendorf for Grace McCallum for her senior beam routine. And before this routine, Olivia Karras.
Grace McCallum competing on beam for the last time in the Huntsman Center, using some different beam music, using Vienna Waits for You. Little Billy Joel there as she reminds herself to calm down. The lyrics are a good reminder to just enjoy the moment and have fun in this last routine.
Yeah, well, head coach Carly Dockendorf said that Grace McCallum is one of her highlights of the entire year so far. Just watching her have so much fun and joy. That is so difficult to do.
Double and triple wolf turns.
Yeah, Carly Dockendorf said that really the difference this year is that she's proving that she doesn't need to compete for anyone, just herself. She doesn't need to focus on perfection, and changing that mindset has been a huge shift for her. I really noticed a difference watching Grace this year. Just how strong she looks on all four events and confident up there. The key is not to overthink the landing here. This could be a 10. That was maybe the best beam routine that I've seen from Grace McCallum.
Even Jordan Childs can appreciate that beam routine from Grace McCallum, former teammates on the Olympic team.
Olympic teammates, and started off with so much difficulty. Triple wolf turn into a double work turn. And the key was not overthinking or trying too hard on this stuck landing.
It is a 10. Grace McCallum, a 10 waits for you.
moment on senior night to control all of the nerves, stay in the moment, execute a perfect routine. The meet's not over. But what a storybook finish for Grace McCallum on this event.
She had a feeling, and then the emotions flew.
I talked to her coaches before the meet started, and they said, people might not know this, but things don't come as easy for Grace as you would think. So all of her success has come from hard work and her willpower.
The hard hands, just like she did after those 5 wolf turns for the judges. McCallum, as you mentioned, felt some pressure of being an Olympian coming onto this team and not always being perfect. She's let go of some of those inhibitions this year. And what do you know? She was perfect for the first time ever on beam.
Yeah, whatever she's doing, it's working.
So how does Shea Campbell respond after this place just went nuts? This is a new routine this week, one she used last year.
This is her Black Panther routine from last season. It is extremely difficult to switch routines, and she's done it a couple times this season. Opens tuck full in. She had been asking choreographer BJ Doss for this routine since her freshman year. She's a huge Marvel fan. She even got a shout out from Lupita Nyong'o for this routine, so she wanted to bring it back one last time. Really important here on the landing. Nailed it. Black Panther routine one last time. What a treat for all of us. I think that's my favorite routine that Shea's competed. And the judges are heating up, so we're going to see a high score. Could it be a 10 for Shea Campbell?
Teammates are throwing the 10s. Here's the last pass in this Black Panther routine for Shea Campbell.
Now watch the landings. That's a lot of what the judges are looking for. When she lands, they're allowed to take one step forward with no deduction. So that was perfect on the landing.
Different than the other events.
Different than the other events.
Where you get a deduction
You
for that.
have to keep both feet planted.
It was a 9-9 for Shea Campbell. That score just went up. Does Avery Neff carry on her big night in rotation 3?
We've been talking about her comeback a lot this meet, and it was so impressive hearing that she was back in the competition, and she actually made adjustments on all of the events so that she could come back to competition quicker. This event in particular, right here, is where a change came in. Side aerial back handspring.
Tweak some of these elements to alleviate the pressure on her ankle. After a mid-January ankle injury against Iowa State.
Yeah, this combination here is what's new to her routine. A little pause before the straddle down. Not as much experience in competition with that, but as we've seen for the other events, she is such an amazing competitor and seems to do her best when there's more pressure on her. Finishing strong dismount. It's tough to go after a perfect 10, but This freshman can handle it.
Her big night continues. Avery Neff, freshman sensation.
Yeah, really strong starting series. Side aerial to a back handspring, no movement. Finishes a really good routine with this gainer full above the beam. I like how high she got off the beam on that.
The 5 spot, Avery Neff, after the McCallum 10. Utah very much alive for their second 198 team score of the season. One of 5 teams in the country to do that this year. Here is Brooklyn Moore's an excellent front tumbler.
One of the best performers in NCAA. Opens with a really difficult double full punch front.
Facial expressions really stand out in this routine.
Yeah, gymnastics fans have been yearning for her perfect 10. She's been so close so many times. Judges are looking for overextension, over 180 on those leaps positions. No movement on the feet there. She couldn't have done it any better, Connor.
A joy to watch her career.
There's a lot of sad fans, myself included, when she graduates because it is so fun to watch her perform this routine. Every inch of it is a performance, 10 out of 10, giving 110% throughout that. And it's harder to do a floor routine when you're dancing that hard. It makes it that much more tiring.
From a current Bruin to a former Bruin. Anna Podererio spent 2022-2023 with UCLA. Last year training with Team Canada for the Olympics. Her fiance plays for Real Salt Lake, the MLS team in town. That's why she's spending this year in Utah for the Red Rocks. She's the anchor tonight on beam, in there for the first time in a month.
She's a really strong beam athlete. I really like how calm Anna looks on beam. You can see her visibly breathing. That helps with nerves up there. Also smiling. That helps with nerves up there. Aerial. You see her foot completely off. Goes for the back handspring. Really great work. Anna is glowing up there, really making this beam routine look so easy. That sheep jump is difficult because she loses sight of the beam in the air. Finishing gainer pike. Just the step on the landing, but good comeback after a month hiatus on that event.
Some poise to do that in a top 5 meet against your former team, or you still have some friends? Well, Jordan Childs follows up a 9.95 from Brooklyn Moores. The Time Woman of the Year, Hernasia Wilson of the Las Vegas Aces in the WNBA. And as you drive around Los Angeles, the Nike campaign, you can't win, so win. With her energy, UCLA seeking to do better than that 9.95 from Brooklyn Moores, where one judge did throw a 10. UCLA fans have been asking for it all year. That 10 for Moore is almost at it.
Yeah, I gotta know what the other judge took, to be honest. But Jordan Childs is an athlete that has scored a perfect 10 on floor this year.
That was the last time she appeared on Fox against Michigan State, February 1st. Walk-off 10.
Very different style routine of Brooklyn Moores, but equally as performative. Nice double layout, 2 flips in a straight body position. To me about her floor routine is that she's looking directly into the crowd. She is engaging everyone.
Pulls you in at home when you watch her on TV too.
Yeah, that's what makes her the full package on this event.
Clean until that.
Yeah, really interesting. She looked like she stumbled a little bit on her dance. Front tuck into a double back. Uncharacteristic mistake, but pulls it back for that last pass. This first pass was such a highlight. Watch how high she gets in the air. In an arch position, spotting the ground way before her feet hit the floor. Goes to stand up and just loses her balance a bit. Never seen that happen from Jordan. Sometimes mistakes happen. This season is really long.
So Jordan Childs saw her former Olympic teammate Grace McCallum in that rotation with a perfect 10. They were teammates on the 2020 Tokyo Olympic team that won a silver medal. And McCallum on her senior night with perfection. And Jordan Childs couldn't help but appreciate it before her floor routine. So that 10 has Utah on the doorstep with their second 198 as a team on the season. They'll need a 49.45 on floor next. They have a season high of 49.6. Huntsman Center, where we are tonight in Salt Lake. Iconic events here. 1979, Magic Johnson against Larry Bird when March went mad at the NCAA tournament. 10 national titles here. Attendance records, it feels like, are close to being broken every single season. 16,000. 19 is the record against Michigan in 2015. Tonight we're close. About 500 away. 15,558. These fans are loyal. They're passionate. They've seen their Red Rocks win 10 national championships. And with a performance like tonight, they'll have a shot to get their first since 1995. Needing a 49.45 on floor to have their second 198 as a team this season. So we go into this final rotation. Carly Dockendorf, the head coach for Utah, is with Olivia Karras right now.
Carly, a season high and an incredible moment from Grace. How does that feel in this meet?
It's just incredible. She's been working so hard for that 10. She arrived on campus a little bit unsure of herself working that event, and she's just continued to grow with confidence year after year, and she has wanted that like every single meet. So for her to get that tonight, it's so special.
Last rotation, floor, senior night. What does the team have to do to close this out in a big way?
We just need to focus in and do what we've been doing all year. Big presentation, dynamic in our tumbling, and just a lot of good energy from the side.
Thank you for the time. Back to you, Connor.
Liv, thank you. And going back to beam first, Grace McCallum, we talked to Carly Dockendorf this week, and she said that she tries to pump up her athletes before they get on beam. She's not always sure she's saying the right thing, but whatever she said before that 10 definitely did the trick for a very, very talented athlete, a former Olympian, Grace McCallum. Back with Sam Pesek, former Olympian herself, Connor Onion, Olivia Karras with us too. What do you need to see on floor now to close this meet strong and get a 198 for Utah?
Yeah, Utah needs to just think about what they do in practice. That's a common theme that head coach Carly Dockendorf has been talking to me about, and I think it's going to be pretty easy for them at home, on floor. The best thing that these athletes can do is just forget about the competition and just let their performance take over.
Part of the reason we keep talking about 198, the last 7 national champions in the national finals have scored at minimum a 198. So that's the bar to get to if you're going to be a national champion. For floor, Jordan Childs, 9.825 was the final score. Only the second time this season under a 9.95 for Childs.
Really uncharacteristic mistakes for UCLA on floor. But again, reminder that this is a really long season. They've been competing every single weekend, so we're approaching postseason, and it looked a little bit like a fatigue showing up on floor.
One more rotation until the postseason is officially here. The Big Ten and Big 12 championships before the selection show, and a 10. And some respect from a former Olympic teammate, Jordan Childs, for Grace McCallum after her 10 on beam. Avery Neff, we expect a new floor routine from her tonight. She's gone 9.9 plus on every single event, including in the first 2 rotations, a career best. These are the 5 teams that have gone 198 as a team this year. Oklahoma and LSU both did it last night for the 4th and 5th times this year. Utah trying to do it for the 2nd time after they did it against Denver last home meet.
I think it's important to note, scoring a 198 right before a postseason, that means you're peaking at the right time. Exactly what these coaches have been strategizing over. It's what you hope in the fall is going to happen, but tough to execute.
In this group, Glenn, Zerbis, Neff, Gilstrap, Smith, and McCallum need a 49.45 to get to a 198 even. And this is one of their best events. Their season high 49.6. They are top 10 in the country, number 8 in the country on the floor. UCLA behind almost 6/10. Will need a big final beam rotation here. This is their scheduled lineup. Emily Lee typically leads off on 3 events. This is her one and only leading off on beam tonight. And that second spot is interesting. Jordan Childs scheduled to compete, but Mika Webster-Longen is up on the beam right now. I wonder if that might be a sub that we see in this final rotation. Let's go to Liv.
Mika Webster-Longen will likely go in for Jordan Childs on balance beam. One of the first times competitive experience for the freshman. Talk about an environment to get competitive experience in here. She's looking calm in warm-up. I'm excited to see how she can put it together in the meet.
Really interesting change, replacing a seasoned competitor in this wild environment with a freshman. But if Mika can execute this routine, she's going to get a lot of confidence from this moment. She doesn't look phased, and that warm-up looked calm and confident. We'll see.
She went into this meet. We expected to see her in 2 events. Then she added a 3rd. She's going all around now in this beam lineup.
This is a freshman that I think is going to continue to improve throughout her time here. She's just so beautiful to watch. Great execution on her skills. But Utah has the student section typically right at the end of the beam, which makes this environment particularly challenging to finish. Beam's already tough to finish on.
The muss is what they call the student section, and even on spring break, I barely heard the last 10 words or so you said. So riled up they are before floor.
It's a rowdy, crowded in here. It always is, which makes it so fun to compete in.
So check this out. Ella Zerbis has spoken openly about her mental health, having mental blocks on floor this season. Great story by Josh Furlong on KSL.com. She loves anatomy. She is taking an anatomy test and labeling the parts of the human skull to take her mind away from the performance she's about to give.
Apparently it helps with her performance anxiety on floor before she competes. I love the creativity for the Utah staff to come up with that.
UCLA needs a big beam rotation to try to claw back, and we'll start with Emily Lee, the only event tonight.
This routine is really important for UCLA to bounce back on a really good event for them. Ranked 3rd in the nation on this event. Back handspring layout. Really calm and cool when she's being this routine. When I spoke to teammate Emma Malabuyo, she said, man, what makes us such a strong beam team is Emily Lee leading us off. She always goes and sets the tone and makes it feel like we can be as aggressive up there as Emily. She gets the job done again tonight, but no surprises there. Excellent leadoff athlete. She's actually scored a 9.9 or higher 57% of the time. And she's a senior. Finishing back handspring gainer layout full to a stuck landing.
Feels like at some point in the postseason we might see a leadoff 10. Grace Glenn is the only UCLA Bruin ever to have a leadoff 10 on beam. Lee has been dangerously close a few times.
Yeah, and an athlete that could really get it done too.
Ashley Glenn leads it off with this Britney Spears themed routine, so she will break the ice.
Judges looking for 180-degree splits on those leaps. Such beautiful toe point throughout this routine. Really impressed me. She's got a lot of dynamic tumbling passes, but she's also really beautiful to watch and has the artistry components, total package on floor. Going into the last pass. Combination pass to finish things off for Ashley Glenn.
And looking back home to her friends in Delaware. What a ton of Delaware natives in college gymnastics. Morgan Hurd comes to mind.
Yeah.
Florida Gator.
Good fact.
They've got a good one. And Ashley Glenn leading off on floor. So this is the change in the UCLA lineup. No Jordan Childs, it's the freshman, Mika Webster-Longen, getting some competitive experience.
Yeah, what an opportunity for her.
routine competitively this season.
She brings such a great artistic flavor to this routine. Great extension in her knees and her toes. Hanging onto the landing. Number one rule of beam is to keep your eyes at the end of the beam. That really helps keep you balanced. Solid side aerial. You know, gymnasts do these routines hundreds of times, but it's really hard to simulate an environment with 15,000 fans and under so much pressure until you're just thrown into this moment. Mika's doing an excellent job. Up on the landing, but big hit in a high pressure environment. Back handspring, layout. I like how straight her legs are in the air. Just couldn't find the finish position. As strong as I'd like her to. Nice technique on the round off. 1.5. Everyone's excited.
Jordan Childs watching in the spot that is typically hers in the lineup. Lacey Dagan with some words of encouragement. That's the UCLA beam coach in her first year, who's really provided a calm confidence. Maybe it shouldn't be surprising to see Webster Longen go up there and do what she just did.
They have a lot of depth on that event, so good to see her get competitive experience.
Ella Zerbis, fresh off her anatomy test, labeling the skull.
I want to know what grade she got on the anatomy test. Head coach Carly Dockendorf talks about her other most proud moment as a coach this year, and it's helping Ella Zerbis get through her performance anxiety and to see her come back strong. Good front handspring, double twist.
She was getting tripped up on her second pass, so they've created a little extra time for her to gather before her second tumbling pass.
Combination pass. The anatomy test must have gone well tonight because that was outstanding.
She goes from labeling the retina and the sclera to two terrific passes on the floor. How many do you think you could?
None. I'm going to be honest.
Were we about to ask each other the same question?
Yes, I was a communication major for a reason.
Did we just become best friends? But I agree. I think maybe two.
Head coach Carly Dockendorf said the same thing. She goes, good thing one of her teammates can help her with the test because I sure couldn't.
Yeah, I got nothing for you. What Liv major in? Is she an anatomy major?
I can confirm I was a communications major and had nothing to do with anatomy.
Hey, great news that we all found the correct career path for us.
3 comm majors, 1 anatomy test, probably a D-. Shea Campbell on beam. Third up for the Bruins, the glue of this Bruins team.
Last week she got a 9-9. That handspring layout, 2 feet. I like how intense she is throughout this routine. You can almost read her mental cues by the way that she's focusing so hard throughout this routine. this is the event that one little negative thought or doubt can make you wobble. So it's really important that you have strong, positive mental cues throughout this routine, and hers were lock solid tonight. That's going to be a really good score for Shea Campbell.
How do you do that? Road environment, not a lot of blue and blue like we just saw in that shot. How do you keep away from the negative talk?
Your strong mental cues. Throughout your routine, you either need to say corrections like straighten your knees, keep your chest up, squeeze your abs, or I got this, I got this, I got this.
And she's got this.
Look at her face. She knows she's got it. She's been such a joy to watch throughout her time at UCLA.
Ella Zerbis, a 9-9 in that last routine. Avery Neff, Carly Dockendorf called her the Michael Jordan of gymnastics because of how fast she came back from her ankle injuries. And we get to see her floor routine. And tonight she has been superb all around.
I asked the coaches if she had any fear coming back to the event where she got injured, and they said no, she doesn't have fear, but she did come in as the #1 recruit in the country, so she does have a lot of expectations, but Avery Neff loves that kind of pressure. Up coming to Utah meets, so being able to compete floor in the Huntsman is really so special on another level for Avery. Adjust all of her tumbling passes to get back to competition quicker. That's unbelievable. To have new passes, new skills on other events, I mean, that is just unbelievable, especially for a freshman. She is superhuman.
Between her and Shea Campbell, the difference in their floor routines the last couple of weeks, to be that adaptable is major kudos to them both.
Front full to a front full, working out of it. It's like she's never left the competition.
Seriously. Career highs the first 2 rotations. Excellent beam rotation as well, or beam routine as well. She had a 9.925. Brooklyn Moores after Shea Campbell's 9.95, new career high for Campbell before Moores.
You know, it's interesting. UCLA's head coach Janelle McDonald said that a focus for them has been performing on beam. And I laugh every time because you look at an athlete like Brooklyn Moore and she could not perform more on beam. It is already so stellar. For an aerial back handspring. The coaches say that focusing on that performance aspect actually alleviates some nerves on this event for the Bruins.
Moores carries over some of the work we saw on the floor in the beam as far as her performance.
Pitch kick into a side aerial. Ooh. Didn't get the hips completely square on the finish of that leap jump. Front tuck pull off the end. Not her strongest beam routine we've seen. But I'm always so impressed watching her perform that routine because she performs it like she's on the floor, and that's what the judges are looking for on that event. That's a switch half, and you see her left arm didn't get around to help square her upper body. You see it show up on the landing there.
years. Looks like she got some positive words of affirmation from Lacey Dagan and Janelle McDonald. This is a beautiful routine. Billy Joel themed Piano Man with Jaylene Gilstrap.
You talk about beautiful performers, and you can't not talk about this athlete here.
It is 9 o'clock on a Saturday.
Opens front layout to a 1.5. This is her last time competing in the Huntsman. There was a hush in the arena. Everybody watching that routine in awe, and she's getting a standing ovation. Couldn't have done anything better for her last floor routine in the Huntsman. Wow. What a beautiful routine. Everyone here is gonna miss seeing that one every single weekend.
Utah crowd all in the mood for a melody. She had them feeling all right.
See what you did there, Connor.
So a 9.95 and a 9.85 thrown by the judges on that routine for Gilstrap.
And lots of boos, Connor. The
9-9.
crowd was not happy with that score. I agree. I thought the 9.85 was a little low.
So 9.9 it is for Gilstrap. Two more routines to come on floor. This is beam specialist Sienna Alipio for UCLA.
Layout, strong finish. Really likes that. She's an athlete that I would call a natural beamer. The way that she's able to absorb the beam when she lands. It doesn't matter how crooked she is, she seems to put it to her feet without wobbling. Sharp finishes. That's good because it shows the judges that she didn't wobble on that skill. Finishing tuck full to a stuck landing. Dip with the shoulders, but didn't move her feet. That should still be a really high score for the Bruins on beam.
Shea Campbell, the highest in this rotation on beam for UCLA at the 9.95. We wait for Alipio's score. But first, here's Liv.
McKenna Smith competing on floor. You'll notice that she has a guitar riff in her floor routine, and that is a tribute to her dad, Craig Smith. He's a guitar player and travels across the country for the team's away meets, playing Top Gun as they get ready to go on the bus. Head coach Carly Dockendorf saying it hypes the crowd up, and she hopes at some point that her dad can come up with her floor music on the guitar and have it play in her final year as a Red Rock.
Well, that's the run out. The theme from Top Gun, Tom Cruise movie, and Craig Smith, as Liv told you, has the guitar riff, and she has her face all over Dad's shirt. superimpose McKenna Smith on Dad Greg's shirt.
I love it. Good juju before her routine. And she didn't, I wouldn't say she looked nervous starting this routine. I would always listen to AC/DC Thunder with my dad, so I understand how that special bond can give you a little extra luck before you compete.
So cool. This is from Beethoven. Big tumbling pass. Another standing ovation for Utah here in the Huntsman. This is an epic floor rotation for Utah. Knocking on the door of 198 in front of her dad, Craig. Another winner on floor for McKenna Smith. McKenna Smith is everywhere.
They're pushing for him to create her floor music for next year. I'd be excited to see that.
I wish he was allowed to just play it live. Well, 110 is up. The other is a 995.
Oh, man. Knocking on the door for perfection. You know what that means, Connor. They're setting up Grace McCallum for a really nice finish.
Well, what that did do, that score, 198 is on the board. Second time this year for Utah hitting 198. One of 5 teams in the country to get there, they do it for a second time. And the Malabuyo, the Olympian for Team Philippines, in the anchor spot on beam.
She's a 2-time All-American and has also scored a perfect 10 on this event. She works beam so light. Great job starting with a strong series. She's fun to watch on floor, but I also really love watching her on beam. I think she does an excellent job on the performance aspect here as well.
That swing down you saw was not part of her routine 2 weeks ago. Put it back in last week.
She was an elite athlete before coming to college, so she has been in high-pressure situations before she came to college, and of course this past year at the Olympic Games for the Philippines. Helps her compete in environments like this. Not going to be a perfect score tonight with that hop on the landing, but really solid on the beam.
.110 is up on the board tonight for Grace McCallum. She did go perfect 10 last February against Stanford. What a picture perfect senior night this would be if she can do it on floor and go out in her final regular season meet that way.
Now the question is, can she score a 10 on floor? Is she capable of scoring a 10? And the answer is absolutely. But the challenge for her is to not think about that at all and just think about one skill at a time.
The curtain call in this meet for Utah, Grace McCallum.
Opens, big tuck full in. Oh, bounce on the landing. Front tuck to double back. From experience, it's really hard to control your emotions on your final routine on senior night in the place you loved competing. It's tough to enjoy the moment and then also remember what you're supposed to be doing and how you're supposed to be competing.
Remember, McCallum will have one more meet in this building in regionals, but her final regular season meet and her final floor routine in the regular season as a senior.
And this was actually higher than I think I've ever seen this tuck full in. And just had a little too much juice on the landing. She's smiling, she knows right there it's not going to be a perfect 10, but what a way for her to celebrate an amazing career.
Does that moment loosen you up when, you know, at that point in the routine, you just kind of let it fly the rest of the way?
Yeah, you're just like, I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to look at the crowd and appreciate every little moment of this routine.
We'll have final scores. We do know this. Utah has a 198 for the second time in a row at home, just like they did at Denver against Denver a few weeks ago. Vying for a national championship for the first time since 1995. Postseason coming next. A 198 tonight for Utah with Grace McCallum highlighting it with a 10 on beam. Be right back to Salt Lake City.
The Floor is all new Wednesdays on Fox.
Well, if there's one memory of tonight, watching this meet at home, it'll be Grace McCallum on beam with a perfect 10.
This was such a highlight for me. How special for her to receive a perfect 10 on senior night. I echo everything that head coach Carly Dockendorf has said about Grace McCallum and how she just looks like she's competing so free this year without expectation. Really just enjoying the sport that she's loved for so long.
The highlight of the season for Carly Dockendorf is this gymnast right here.
Strong back handspring layout, no movement on the finish. Switch leap, split jump. Really precise in her dance throughout this routine as well. Following the #1 rule of beam, you can see her eyes are glued to the end of the beam, which helps her stay balanced throughout this routine. I also noticed strong arm positions, and then when you stick the dismount, you're asking for a perfect 10.
And there at the end, looking like Keith Van Horn in this building from back in the day. Final score in, 198-1 for Utah, their second 198 as a team this year, and a season high. Here's Grace McCallum with Olivia Karras.
Grace, perfect 10 on balance beam, first of your career. What was that like to happen on senior night?
It was truly an amazing feeling. After 4 years of hard work, finally having it, I just feel truly so amazing and so blessed.
You were incredibly emotional after that routine, and it showed on your face. What emotions are going through your mind today?
I'm just so grateful for the 4 years I got here at Utah. It's truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and so to be a part of a family just like this, I mean, I'm just in awe.
Team had a great performance today, a 198 plus. What's that going to do for you going into conference championships next weekend?
I think that'll really help our confidence going into Big 12 championships. It's just what we needed.
Thank you, Grace. Back to you, Connor.
Liv a place next week at the Maverick Center here in Utah, where Utah is very, very comfortable. That's where they'll compete for the Big 12 postseason championship. And if they keep getting routines like this from Avery Neff, no reason to believe they can't contend for a national championship.
They're getting a lot of confidence back, especially when they're getting their top athletes back in these lineups. Grace McCallum is, I'm going to say, at the peak of her career. She just looks so strong. And then you add that freshman Avery Neff, who can just put in high score after high score.
So UCLA goes to Ann Arbor next weekend on Big Ten Network. You can hear Olivia Karras call that. 2 days at the Big Tens where UCLA will try to go for the regular season postseason sweep. This has been a joy to watch and have gymnastics twice on Fox this year. Our producer Aaron Stoikov and Matt Gengel have been so instrumental in bringing it to you back home. Great to have Olivia Karras with us tonight, our All-American Olympian Sam Peshek. Our entire broadcast crew, thanks you for watching. I'm Connor Onion. Good night from Salt Lake City, Utah. A second 198 for Utah and a perfect 10 for McCallum.